You're watching and listening to the latest Red and Blue review show. For all your Crystal Palace related chat, please like and subscribe across all the usual social media platforms, especially our YouTube channel. This really helps us out. Now, let's get on with the show.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. If you cut to me a bit quicker than that, you'd have seen me dancing in my chair to that song. Ladies and gentlemen, very good evening and warm welcome to the Red and Blue Review. My name is Nick Philpott. I've got my tin hat on this evening because it's going to be a lively show. I hope you are ready for it. I'm shortly going to be joined by my distinguished panel guests, and they will be coming up right now. I'm going to kick off with the first one that's just joining me now. Is Paul Guéhi. Good evening, Paul. How you doing, mate?
Hi, Nick. Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. I thought last week was going to be eventful, but yeah, we seem to have topped it, I think, tonight.
Car crash incoming, I think is what you're actually trying to say there. Yasmin Broom, well done for your long journey yesterday. How are you?
I'm all right. I've had better weeks, but I'm okay.
Jill Holyoke, okay, there is no filter on you this evening, mate. You may feel your boots. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, mate. I'm good. Hello, everyone. Yeah, don't put it all on me. I'm pretty sure that the comments can say what I probably want to say. So,
and from the Fab team, Tim Richards. Hello, mate. How are you?
I'm good, thank you, Nick. Hello, everyone. Nice to see you all.
And good evening to each and every one of you out in the Facebook land or the YouTube land. I can see you. Chloe's out there. Johnny's out there. Good evening. Charlie, William, Robert, and there's loads of you out there. Gerald's going to be keeping his eye on the chat. He's going to be coming to say hello to all of you shortly. What does that say? Hi, Nick. Yes, Gerald, Tim, and namesake Paul. Paul, yeah. Good evening, mate. I know you're there, Paul. Right. So you all expect us to go into absolute meltdown this evening. I don't know where it's going to go because I've got absolutely zero notes on this. We're going to be having a discussion. We will touch on the game briefly. Yaz will be doing that for me shortly. But first of all, you're not going to be expecting this, but I'm actually going to give you some good news from the club. My God, what? Yeah, Tim's covering his head up. He doesn't know what. I'm watching as I'm talking to you live, and the time is now 2 minutes past 8. I've been keeping my eye on the African Cup of Nations final that's on now. It's currently 0-0. And the good news I've got for you is Ismaili Sarr is not playing. He's on the bench. I believe, Paul, was that right? In the semi-final, he only came on for the last 7 minutes or something the other day.
He hasn't started any of the last 3 games, I don't think so.
Well, there you go. So the good news is he will be back fit and ready, assuming he doesn't come on, or if he does come on, he doesn't get injured. He'll be back. Knowing our bloody luck at the moment, he'll come on and break his leg. But with a bit of luck, he won't even be featuring, and he'll be back and fit and ready to play for the Chelsea game, which will be good news with a bit of luck. Other good news I've heard tonight on a website called, I can't even remember, Football Fancast, is Siddiqui Sharif has agreed personal terms with Crystal Palace, and we are going to be signing the 19-year-old French youth player. Okay, he's appeared for the French youth team. He's made 30 appearances for, I can't even remember the name. Is it Auxerre? Is it, Paul? Can you remember?
Yeah, I think
team he plays for Auxerre. He's 6'1". He's made 30 appearances. He's only scoring 4 goals, but he's a young talent, obviously identified by the club, and he's agreed personal terms. The club are yet to agree a transfer fee, but it looks as though it's all guns blazing. The last hurdle is the transfer fee. So that's the good news. Now, how tonight is going to pan out is entirely up to you out in Facebook or YouTube land. You can steer the conversation this evening. All you got to do is get into the chat, okay, and give us as many questions as you like, okay. Jill's going to be all over it. But before we do that, I want to try and keep this as close to being factual as we possibly can. Yeah, I'm aware my lights keep flashing on and off here, but we'll worry about that later on. We're going to keep it as factual as we can. I was a bit surprised today to watch a couple of meltdowns taking place on social media. One of the most respected Crystal Palace journalists is a guy called Henry Swain. Some of you may be aware of him. He actually put a long rambling thing out last night saying how Oliver Glasner has been sacked by Crystal Palace Football Club and all that sort of stuff. It's absolute bollocks. He's supposed to be he's got thousands and thousands of followers. It is completely inaccurate. It's factually untrue. And he went on about this. He's done this and he's done that. Well, we all know what he's done, okay? And we're going to get to in great detail during the course of the show. But it's factually untrue. Yeah, the biggest Palace account out there is HLTCO, who I follow, who I listen to daily. He actually put out an emergency podcast this morning on Sunday morning. He only works Monday to Friday normally. He put out one yesterday afternoon. He put out an emergency one this morning. And it was just filled with, I know he's passionate. The guy, Dan, I know Dan well. He's very passionate about what he does. And I love his podcast. But it was just a knee-jerk reaction. What we're going to try and avoid tonight is knee-jerk reactions. We're going to try and make this balanced if we can. I know Paul is in one corner and Tim Richards is in another corner. That's great for debate, okay? That's exactly what we want to do tonight. And we're going to try and keep it balanced this evening. I know emotions are running high. And Joel's going to come out and try and knock Yaz out, but I'm not going to let him. I'm going to defend Yaz's corner, okay? And that's what we're going to do. And that's what we're going to do. Right, so that's the good news. Sharif is very close to signing the Palace, and Saar is not playing in the AFCON final this evening. So with a bit of luck, and they're about to kick off on the second half as I'm talking to you live. Okay, so yes, if you'd be so kind, well done you and Paul for making that long journey up north yesterday. I understand the entry and the searches and all that sort of stuff was just garbage as per normal. Look, Premier League rules, for those of you listening back on the podcast, Nigel's currently displaying a picture of where the Palace fans were situated in the ground. Premier League rules now currently state that they must have at least some pitch side exposure. Well, Newcastle United, hang your heads in shame. Stadium of Light, hang your heads in shame. Because Palace were in, how many tiers up was that, Paul?
Technically, it's the second tier because they got a huge, great bottom tier. But it wasn't quite as high as Newcastle. But yeah, it's against the rules. But Newcastle do it, they will.
Yeah.
So if you're suffering from any sort of disability, mobility issues, you've got to get up there. Okay. If there is an emergency to get out of there, you've got to get out of there. Okay. It's against Premier League rules. Somebody, if there's any journalists watching this evening, get onto it because it's breaking Premier League rules. Yes, over to you for the game, please.
Thank you. So I think Nigel has the lineup. We had Lerma back, which was one bit of good news that we had yesterday. And Dino was captain. Won't go into what we think about that at the moment. Obviously, it's the debate is whether you think a goalkeeper is a good captain or not. I did see yesterday that there were times when Hughesy had to sort of take over that role a bit. So, yeah, I don't know what it means for the future, whether we should look again. But it's nothing against Dino. It's just, his position on the pitch. So we started the game and I thought we didn't have much possession at the start, but I thought everything was going better than how I thought it would. I think it was after last week's debacle. I wasn't sure who we could beat or, anything like that. And Pino had a chance when Sunderland made a mistake, but he passed it to JP and his shot was saved. And then we had a corner and this was on 30 minutes and Pino scored a really good goal into the top corner. And yeah, we were really ecstatic over that. And then it was only 3 minutes. It didn't feel like 3 minutes at the time. Later, that they were completely unmarked and scored the equaliser. I don't really know who's to blame for it on our side, apart from all of them, because no one was near. And then we did have another goal just before half time. But that was from JP and he was offside. And I think from where we were, the one thing about being that high is we could see, and he did look offside to us.
Yeah, I mean, it was blatantly obvious, even on not watching it on the TV screen.
It took 2 seconds to check.
Exactly. Exactly.
So, I mean, one thing I will say is that it was a good strike from him. It's just a shame he was offside, and there was a lot of people kind of talking about that because he is offside quite a lot. And so obviously that's something that I think he could look at. So yeah, we went in feeling a bit better than I thought most of us thought it would be at half time. But then in the second half, we had a free kick that Pino took. I think he kind of had a go rather than crossing it in. And I mean, it hit the top of the net. I don't know if he should have done that or whether it would have been better to cross it in for someone else. But then on 71 minutes, Sunderland went ahead. Nothing that could have been really done about that goal, I don't think. And then following that, they seemed to have a lot of chances, and Dino kept us in it. He made quite a few good saves quite near the end, so that the scoreline wasn't any more embarrassing. But that's it for that game. My only other thoughts on it, for those who didn't watch it, was that the referee, I felt, and quite a number of us felt, didn't have a good game for us. Also that Adam Wharton was booked, and then he made another challenge which could have been a booking.
Absolutely.
He wasn't booked. One of their players was booked for trying to get him booked, I think.
That's right.
But that was then when we thought, what's going on here? Because we thought, well, you take Adam off before he gets sent off, but no substitutions were made. We also thought maybe ring Uche on, near the end to try and get a goal. That didn't happen. Of course, we were wondering why. And then when we got to the station, we started to hear about the press conference. And then we found out why no subs were made. But I think I'll keep it to that for the game. I don't know if anyone
well
else...
done. And you know what? That's plenty, because obviously we've got quite a few bits and pieces to cover as well. And going back to your point, I thought I actually sent a message from FootMob. I took a screen grab of the players' overall ratings yesterday, and I think the lowest player on the pitch on the Palace side for sure was Adam Wharton. I agree with you. I think he was substandard. I don't think he's reached the peak. I mean, I think he achieved. Can anybody remember what I actually posted? I think it was 5.8 player rating. Everybody around him was 6.4 or above. He was okay, but he wasn't world solid. Joe, you look as though you disagree with me.
Yeah, no, not with you. With them, if you have to go on stats, but I'm not joking. I've been better than Devaney, and I've been sitting in my house watching the game. Devaney, listen, I love him. I really do, and I think he's one for the future. But last week he was crap, and yesterday he was crap. Why is it, if he's outright? Why? And he cuts. How many times did he get the ball, pass it back, get the ball, pass it back? Literally useless. Gonna do that? Don't play him. Honestly, don't play him. Play him on the left-hand side. Do you remember when Eze left? Who went and took Eze's place as such? Devaney. Because he's got a bit of pace and he runs down the left and he can cross the ball. Or from the left half. Just ridiculous. He set that team up yesterday. Not even interested what everyone else says. He set that team up with foul. Try and prove a point again and again and again. Didn't bring any substitutes on to put a point out again and again and again. Don't do that. If you're going to do that, get Paddy in. Honestly, get out. Not interested. That's my little bit of a rant. I just want to say hello first.
Please do, mate.
Just there, go back to the beginning. Obviously, I'm just going to skip this. No surnames. Tom, Robert, Renshaw, Pla, Daniel, a different Robert, William, Andrew, Rob, Mark, Ian, Lee Lockwood, Richard, Jonathan, Keith, Chloe, Graham, John, Steve, Paul, Damon, James, Lee, Matt. There's a ton of people. Andy Hopper, Phillips on David, Ian Donalds, John Kerr, Mark Smith. So there's a ton of people in here, and everyone is going to have a different a different view from other people. It don't matter whether you was at the game, whether you was watching the game, whether you've just seen highlights of the game, or whether you have seen just interviews and whatever. Everyone is. If you follow Palace, you have your right to have an opinion. And I'm not having this thing about having people throwing accusations to people. You can't have an opinion if you don't go to the game. Like, I don't go to the games. I'm not well enough. You know I'm not well enough to go to the games. I couldn't climb those steps yesterday if it was up all those floors. So it's definite. But if you're a Palace fan and you have any kind of opinion, your opinion is valid, whether it is right or whether it's wrong. And it just annoys me that there are a lot of pious Palace fans out there at the moment who think that just because they have an opinion, or they go all the time, or they spend this and spend that their opinion counts more than anyone else. And it absolutely bloody well doesn't. So if you've got an opinion, no matter what it is, and don't throw any crap at each other in the comments. If you do, I'll make sure that you get barred, you get kicked out. So, but it literally is. We're in the middle of a shit show at the moment, no matter what way you look at it. And what I'll do after Paul and Tim have had a bit of a say about yesterday and their thoughts, I'm going to come up with some questions. I mean, there's a lot of people saying the same stuff, but I will pull some questions out.
Thank you, mate.
See, we're 16 minutes in, and there's a ton of questions gone through. So give me
good stuff. Good stuff. Right, brilliant. And I'd like you to do that. Yes, please. I'm personally addressing everybody in the chat, in the YouTube chat. Now, I need you to do something for me. We were going to try and run a poll, but for varying reasons, it won't show on screen. So what I'd like you to do, a very simple question. Following events of the last 72 hours, should Glasner stay or should Glasner go? Now, if you think he should stay, I would like you to use the love heart emoji on your screen. If you think he should go, could you please use your thumbs down emoji on your screen? Really easy. Love heart for yes, stay. Thumbs down for no. Over to you guys in the chat. We'd love to know your thoughts. Each of us, I'm telling you now, each of us have our own view. It's a question of where I start unpacking this, really. Tim and Paul, I'm also keeping my eye on the chat as well, Jill. Tim and Paul, I'm coming to you first. Tim, you have been, let's say, extremely vocal, okay, or more importantly, driving my phone mental over the last 72 hours. Give me just an outline of what you think of the Guéhi situation, and then very briefly the Glasner situation, and then we're going to try and unpick what you say.
Yeah, I think like a lot of people, initially there was, and then you kind of think about it a bit. The Guéhi situation, we all knew he was going to go. And when you think that our budget is less than a third of most of the top teams, we can't afford to let him go for nothing. So I think the business of going to City, I'm disappointed. I'd love to have seen him stay out the season, but simply 20 million is 20 million. And I can understand that bit of business, why it was done. Regarding Glasner yesterday and what he said, and initially I completely understood where he was coming from, my initial thing. But then the more I thought about it, and like from what Paul was saying, when you look at the inconsistencies in his comments over the last few months, it's who knows what to believe. All the talk about, no decision's been made. We're sitting down in January. The schedule doesn't give us the time. Well, if you told him in October, obviously that's not true. So, and whatever you think about how he's been treated, how he hasn't been backed, you don't do it in that way, and you don't throw the players under the bus. Yes, we all know that most of them on that bench weren't good enough to be in the squad, but they are. And how are they going to feel now? And unfortunately, I think the way Glasner's handled it and the club has handled it, the people that really suffer are the players and the fan base.
Thank you, mate. Appreciate that. Short and sweet, and shame some of your bleeding text messages weren't today. Paul, I'd like your overview of the Marc Guéhi situation and the Glasner situation, please.
Okay, yeah. So I've been quite vocal on here recently about saying Marc Guéhi will be sold, and he has to be sold if you get a sensible offer. He was always going to go if the money came in. I'll start off by saying I think the board have been negligible not having a replacement for him. They should have had a replacement for him in last summer. That would have allowed us to sell him last summer as well, but they didn't. So the theory should have been they should have had someone ready on January the 1st so that they could sell him this month because they knew they were going to if an offer came in. So, yeah, no issue with that. Obviously, I sat on Friday watching the press conference with my jaw just dropping and dropping and dropping every time Oliver said something. So the first thing he came out, first question was obviously what's happening with Marc. He then came out and said, obviously, he's in the final stages of moving. And then everyone knew the next question was, how's that going to affect your thing? Now, he then came out and said, obviously, he'd spoken to Parish in October and he'd made the decision he wasn't going to stay. Now, that's fine. I have no problem with that in terms of it's his contract. If he doesn't want to stay, that's fine. He then said he's going to give 100% to the club for the rest of the season. Okay, I'm not sure how that always works with a manager when he says he's going. I'm not sure how you can motivate the players, the club, the team at that point. But that's another story. At that point, I was okay with everything. It was bad news, but it's what we were expecting. So, but it was shortly after that I started to get a bit frustrated because nothing was on the website about this thing he said. There was nothing. Club were not saying anything, and to me, it sounds like he went rogue. He was obviously fuming that Marc had been sold, and he'd only been told that morning, and he's basically decided to tell everyone that he's going. Now, that should have been done individually on a separate press conference, nothing to do with Marc Guéhi, because obviously he's then going to get linked. So that's when things started to unravel, and I started to think maybe this is not good, and maybe Glasner probably should actually go now. I mean, he's because we've seen before, Klopp said he was going to leave. Liverpool sort of collapsed. Ferguson, the first time he was leaving Man United, they collapsed. And we're back to the motivation factors. Players, when they know a manager's going, they lose that 1%. They haven't got to impress a manager anymore because he's not going to be there. They haven't got to try and stay in the team or train properly. And even though it's subconscious, that little drop in form will drop in results. And they could have seen this over the last few weeks. So I think the reason he's come out, he was annoyed, and I think his plan was it would hopefully galvanise the team for a final push, a final hurrah under him and go well. Now, the problem is if it doesn't go well, then, yeah, everyone will say it's because he's leaving, he'll get pushed out. So he's put himself and the club in a sticky position at that point. So we obviously then go to Sunderland, we lose the game, and he then comes out and empties his pram at the end of the game. Some of the stuff he came out with after the game I thought was disgraceful, to be honest. Everyone knows this club. He says about ripping the heart out of the players twice by selling players on the day before a game. Now, whatever the club done this week, he would have had a problem with. If we'd have gone to him on Tuesday and said he can't play, he'd have taken him out of training. He'd have done all the set pieces without him. And then if the move had fallen through on Friday and he suddenly was available, that would have been the wrong way to do it. But no, he's trained him all week. And then they pulled him out on the Friday. Now, Marc could have got a hamstring injury in training on Friday. So the fact that they suddenly know they're not going on a Friday, he's not playing on a Friday, is irrelevant to me. And he says the players, I only told them the day before a match. Well, hold on a minute. You told them the day before a match you were leaving. So that's probably more of a shock to them than a player not playing. I mean, footballers know football. Footballers know transfers. They know players can go at the drop of a hat. So I thought that was very unfair. I thought saying about the same with Eze, we knew everyone in football knew Eze was going. They thought he was going to Tottenham. He ended up going to Arsenal. But there was rumours on the first day of the season he wouldn't play at Chelsea. He then apparently according to Glasner, he phoned Glasner on the Thursday morning of the Frederiksstad saying, I can't play tonight. So how this suddenly turned into, we were all surprised he went the day before a game is ridiculous. So I think as we've alluded to, he then said about the bench, he didn't use the bench. He's thrown all the players on the bench under the bus because now he's staying, which we'll come on to later. Next week, when he goes to put one of them on, where's their motivation? He's like, well, why are you putting me on? I'm obviously not good enough. I wasn't last week. So he's screwed that one up as well. And as we said, I've seen Chloe and a few other people put in the chat that, yeah, he sabotaged for his own benefit yesterday. He didn't use substitutes so he could use it in his interview. He also, by doing that, he's sabotaged a chance of a result. He's got players he's saying running on fumes. He's playing a striker who apparently couldn't train all week. And he's leaving them on the pitch to get potentially injury or sent off, just to make a point. And now that, as I say, yes, they're not great players. They might not come on and change anything, but they might have. And the fact that you didn't do it is pretty poor. Now, as I say, I'll slow down now and move on a bit for other people. To me, my support in the Crystal Palace, I will support anyone who gives 100% to this club. And if I think their main motivation is to do the best thing for this club. Now, Oliver said he would give 100%. Now, I don't see how that's possible. If that interview the other night is not doing your best for Crystal Palace, that's not trying to help Crystal Palace, and that is not going to help Crystal Palace. So if that's his attitude, I don't think. I think he's untenable. He can't. He'll lose the players that way. He'll lose the fans that way. He'll lose his hierarchy that way. So yeah, that's my opinion on it. I'm not very happy with him, to be honest. I say great things in the past. He'll always be a legend, and he'll always have a place in everyone's hearts for what he's done. But this is not the way to have left this club or to try and leave this club. So yeah, we'll come on to what happens with him staying in the future on. But that's my take on what's the past.
Good stuff. Thank you, mate. Joe, I mean, Paul's point about not using the subs yesterday could have easily cost Adam Morton, and very nearly did cost Adam Morton a red card yesterday. Do you think he was wrong not to use the bench?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, firstly, look, what we need to do, we've moved on because I need to just come back to some of these.
That's what I wanted to do, yeah.
So Chloe turned around and said, look, I'll just, after his comments yesterday, surely his position is untenable. I'm not sure whether, I agree, Paul, you're saying, you're putting your thumbs up. Yeah. I agree. I think that that almost every manager that's come out ever and criticised the club and the board, or especially the board, has been binned within 24 hours. I think this shows a huge amount of weakness. Look, it's either going to show a huge amount of weakness from Parish, who's the CEO, the chairman of the club for the running of the day-to-day, or again, this is another little secret. Say what you like, don't really care. Just take something away from the shock of losing two of our best players this season, probably one of the best managers we've ever had. Now I'm going to use that phrase, one of the best managers, because in my opinion, and quite a lot in here, Joan Wells said, has this taken a shine of his reputation with our fans? Now I know he's got our team, and he's taken players to overachieve and win the FA Cup and overachieve and win the Charity Shield. But we've always got a puncher's chance. We've always had that puncher's chance. We've beaten Man City in the past. We've beaten Liverpool in the past. So there's no surprises. No surprises for a lot of people that we won those games, even though really, with their £1 billion squads that we shouldn't have done. But he was guiding us at the beginning of the season when things were rosy, to possibly our highest. We were sitting fourth in the Premier League. We were in the cups, and then all of a sudden, you allured to a few weeks ago that our season could come crashing down, and indeed it really has. And then,
did you just say that I was right, Joe? Sorry, could you?
No. I didn't say you was right. I just said you alluded to it.
So you said I was right then, and
it has. Yes, it's very hard. Believe me, everyone. Paul Bristow said the venue is all left footy. This could be why Danny Imre's been recalled. Just a couple more things out of the chat, and then you can have go. Yes. And then Gloria has turned around and said, why'd they bring Danny Imre back if they weren't going to use him again? So that is a
good point, Gloria.
It is a good thing. I haven't read this one, but so Rob Cranfield said, don't even get me started on when we're attacking and all the players in the other half and the ball gets passed back to the goalkeeper. So yeah, I mean, it just it's a lot of, I think my little rant, I'm catching up now with the people about when I just said, just get rid of him now. And then there's a guy called Brett Kemp on here. Because I will, like I say, we're not going after people tonight, but he just turned around and said he's not listening to this crap anymore. So I imagine Brett is probably gone, which is a shame because he's been in and out of these comments for years now. So, but we've all got an opinion, and if you ever wanted to come on to give us an opinion, we used to do the phone-ins, but it got a little bit. Did we do it, or was it up when we had Homesdale Radio?
No, it was on a couple of. It was on the other.
Chaos, that was so good though. But it might be something that we can actually do. I'm sure we used to do it. But anyway, yeah. So like I said, and Tom Samuel said we'd be mad to lose Ollie. Would take a new manager a while getting used to the players. Well, I mean that's been and gone, Tom, because he's going. He's already told us. Yes.
Yes, I've got a million questions for you.
Yeah.
His legacy is obviously winning us 2 trophies. Okay, he gave us that, what was it, 16-game unbeaten run over 6 months. Okay, 19 games or whatever it was. That's his legacy to us. Did he ruin his legacy? Is my first question to you. Okay. Secondly, what sort of response do you think Selhurst Park is going to give him on Saturday?
I think it has tarnished it a bit for me, because one of the things I was going to say is, as I've said before, I kind of think of the football things with my heart, not my head. Because if I thought of it with my head, I probably wouldn't have gone to Sunderland yesterday and all the other places that I go. So that's just where I come from. I'm not happy about Mark going. I understand the £20 million. I understand the finance.
It's going to be. I think it's going to be nearer £30 million with 5 months left on his contract.
Even so, we're still in Europe. We're supposed to be going for that. We're supposed to be favourites for that. And we haven't got a replacement for him. We've got this striker that scored about 4 goals in 20 games or something. That's what we've got now. We need someone better than that, in my opinion. But that's just my heart speaking. But yeah, I do think that it has tarnished it a bit. One of the things I put on Twitter, I tried not to put too much, is that actually it's the fans that are being abandoned, because it is. We're still going. We still went there yesterday, not knowing about all of this, thinking that he'd accepted Mark going and all of that. And then he didn't, I'm not saying he threw the game, but he could have brought those subs on. He could have tried. We were there, we paid our money, we paid a lot on the train, and we spent a lot of time getting up there. Our train was cancelled. We had all sorts of fun trying to get home. So I don't accept him doing that to prove a point. He shouldn't have put everybody's time, money, hopes, dreams, whatever, into that. I don't know for Sunday how it's going to be honest. He does walk past us every time because we're in the main stand. And yeah, usually we're clapping and waving and all of that. And I don't know. I think if this is the decision and he's going to stay with us, we have to get behind him. Because otherwise, what are we going to do? Boo our own manager. I don't agree with booing our own players. I never agree with that. So I think if this is what they're deciding, and I do agree with Joe, it's weak, then that's what we're going to have to go along with.
Thank you. Yeah, really good stuff. Really good. Paul, I know you're itching to come in. And I do stand corrected in the chat, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, it's 2:00 Sunday afternoon. I did say Saturday. My mistake. Thank you. It's 2:00 Saturday afternoon. Timbo, how do you feel it's going to be at the weekend when he steps out to the pitch or steps alongside the pitch?
That's why I'm hoping to get a ticket to the game. So I think it's going to be very interesting. I hope that the fan base realise they're there for the players, and the players need us now more than ever. So I'm hoping there is an overall positive response. Getting back to if he should be sacked, I think he should be, purely from the point of view, it's exactly the same as pre-season. Get transfer window. Get players in soon so that whoever is manager gets a chance to work with them. We need to work for the future now. We need to look for the future. We need to get the replacement in as soon as possible so we can hit the ground running for next season. Now, my point is the board, I'll say Steve Parish, but the board knew he was going in October. So I think the only reason he hasn't been sacked now is because either they haven't got a clue who they want, or they do know who they want, but that person isn't available until the summer. Those are the only reasons I can think.
I can think of another one, Tim, that the Parish doesn't want to pay him off the remainder of his contract. Okay. Yeah. Paul.
Okay, well, I was trying to address what I've been hearing. So your last one, Parish paying him off. His wages till June are in the budget. He can pay him off if he wants. It's not a problem. They probably want him to walk, to be honest. They probably don't think they deserve to pay him off, but that's another story. In terms of next Sunday, I think anyone who doesn't buy the match program would be a good read next week. That would be quite comical to read Parish's and Glasner's notes on that. In terms of whether he gets supported or not, it was quite noticeable yesterday at Sunderland that the fans were there supporting the team. They were singing songs about the team. A couple of the players, particularly the Pino song, because everyone likes that at the moment. We did not once sing the Oliver Glasner song. We did not once sing a song about Mateta, which I thought was quite telling as well. So I think it's one of these things that will galvanise the fan base to just support the club, support the team. And yeah, Glasner won't get any special treatment or anything. And I think that's probably the way it goes. He'll walk on, he'll get whatever. Some people will clap him in the stand, some people won't. But there'll be nothing special for him on that one. So yeah, I know, looking at the stuff on this, it's quite interesting reading the chat and all this sort of stuff about things. I'd be interested to know. I know, as I say, I people have probably noticed I'm not on the manager's side on this instance for a few things. Now, obviously, that doesn't mean I'm pro board all the way. I think the board do certain things wrong with the transfer window and all sorts of stuff and the timing of it. So there's faults on both sides, but as I say, I think on this occasion, Glasner's gone too far with it. I'll just be interested to know all the people in the chat, for instance, as a question. You look back now, and I think a lot of the people say the problem is obviously the transfer window in the summer. Now, it makes a bit more sense in some ways because obviously it's like everything. If Glasner had committed a new contract last summer, he may well have got extra players. He may well have got all sorts of things. He may well have got other people signing new contracts. But when it's always in the back of your mind that your manager might not be staying, I can see why the club might not want to go hell for leather and spend all their money on it. It's the same problem we've now got ourselves here in January. We don't know what manager we're buying players for in theory. And
I'm coming on to that.
But yeah, so that might explain partly the summer window last year. As I say, if he'd have committed, he may well have got more than he wanted. The fact that he didn't, and he's obviously quite emotional. He obviously came out yesterday after a defeat, after a mad one. I remember after Man United we lost, and he came out very strong against the board, saying we should have invested and we chose to save blah blah. A few weeks later, he then railed back on that, saying that actually he approved the summer window, he agreed with the size of the squad, all sorts of things. So, and the fact that he told him in October as well. He didn't give us much of a chance, to be honest. He gave us one window of an uncommitted manager, and it seems to have based his thing on that. Now, if he says he's going because he wants a new challenge, that's fine. Otherwise, it's because we can't match his ambition. And I think what's been shown recently, the last few months, his ambition is too big for Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace are a certain level club, a certain level finance, and will always be a certain level of having to sell players. And I think I get the impression that he wanted more than we could fairly give him. And as I say, that's his reason, that's fine. But accept that, do things behind closed doors. You got a problem with the squad yesterday and all that, go and tell Steve Parish in his office. Don't go nuclear publicly like you've done, throwing everybody under the bus, because he has made his position untenable. And as I say, the problem we have now, if we keep him, he knows he can say what he wants. He can lose every game. We're not going to sack him. He's sort of like absolved himself. His interview absolved.
Can I jump in on that one, Paul? Let me jump in on that one. Ladies and gentlemen, those of you listening on the podcast post the live show, the time is currently 20 to 9 on the Sunday evening. And at this time, the club haven't dismissed the manager. It may well be very much the case that on Monday morning, 9 o'clock, the club put out a statement and he has gone. So our forgiveness for that, we can only do what's laid out in front of us. So it may happen in the next few days. Joe, I wanted to ask you a question. I know you're looking at the chat. Can I ask you a question? We broke our transfer budget with Brennan Johnson, whatever it was, 35 million quid. How do you think he's feeling now? Do you think he asked the manager whether he's staying or going? And would he have joined had he not had the honest truth from Glasner?
To be honest with you, I don't know. I mean, he just wants first team football. He's got, we all know he'll be on a ton of money. And then I'm going to go straight into the comments with this one, which is relevant to this. Said Graham O'Neill thinks that Ange Postecoglou will be our next manager. It's a good shout. I don't think he will be myself, but he said but this is the bit that which might be the people go, I don't want Ange, but you'd have Jedi. So Jedi's his number 2. And they both know Johnson and had to get the best out of him, but I'm not sure that they'd come along just for the sake of one player. And then Jamie, he says, unfortunately, he thinks that that Glasner will get booed by a certain percentage, not said section, but a certain percentage of people. And I think, like you say, pay your money, you do what you like. You know, you want to boo, so you throw your season ticket on a pitch or whatever. You know, you have the choice to do what you want, as long as you're not being abusive. Otherwise, you'll get taken out.
I'm going to throw my bra on the pitch. I'm telling you now.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and I saw. I can't remember who it was. Someone really earlier on, turned around and said, "Is anyone blaming Parish for this?"
I'm coming up to that, Jill.
Well, hang on a second. So, and then Lee Lockwood said, "Parish is so tight, he only breathes in." But then saying that, he spent £35 million on a player. So, I don't think we have to worry too much about the time tonight, Nick, if that's what he was looking at. I'm not. Again, Jonathan Cook said swap Glasner for Frank. Be my, I'd like him.
I can see that as being a complete job swap, Joe. I don't think you're.
No, without a doubt. I just want to, people were saying about spending and said, when you get these rich people come in and they're proper big time businessmen, what they do, they work out the PSR when you bring money into the club. It's so you can grow as a club. Now, this is what potentially, probably apart from Newcastle, because they're owned by trillionaires, we've got 3 billionaires. Parish is a multi-millionaire. He's got a percentage of the club. I'm pretty sure that some of the old owners have still got little percentages, and other people have got percentages of the club. So we have sort of 3.5 billionaires own our club. Now, why haven't we got anything coming in like to boost the amount of money? I still never got my head around, the PSR thing. But you can't just see it. You can't just go, well, we're a small club and we're always going to sell. Not having it. We've been in the Premier League for a long time now. We have not built on our, the Americans have come in and they've pretty much acted like the Glazers at Man United. Then Man United are we're not even on the same planet as them. We might turn them over most times, but size-wise, they are massive. But they're massive for a reason, Having making our grounds into a 38,000 all-seater, it's not going to enable us to buy. It's not going to bring in that much more money. We need the grounds to be made into a 40,000 or not 40, but 45,000. I don't think we'd fill it. That's my personal point. But why ain't this Johnson fella? When the other fella bought out the shares, he came in. It was 90 million quid. We bought Eze, we bought this, that, and the other. But he seems to have come in, this Johnson, and no one's. Are we spending the Eze money? Where's the 67 million or whatever we got for him? What's that? Is that 30 million? Is that going towards the stand? Or is that because I thought that money was ring fenced, even though we've got a 200.
I think you got to look at it the other side. I mean, the Woody Johnson question.
I have to look at it from the monetary side, Nick.
No, I think you're right. I think
big boys now. You know what I mean? We're getting overtaken by people who already got the infrastructure. You're not Sunderland.
Jill, we are big boys, but we are not elite. Okay, we are big boys. We're an established Premier League game. Now you're talking about what the new stand is going to bring us. Our income, our match day and corporate income is less than a third against in comparison to the elite top 6 clubs. Less than a third. So we've got to cut our cloth accordingly. People are saying, why are we buying this player? Why are we not buying that player? Because we're not in that market. We've got to grow, and that means grow the stadium to allow us to compete in these sides. At the moment, we're running on 24,000 people a week, okay, and a little bit of corporate. I mean, a minuscule bit of corporate, okay. But these, most of the other clubs, okay, pick out any, I don't know, take out Villa, okay. Villa will do nicely. A comparable size fan base. They've got a huge corporate.
What about Bournemouth?
Okay. Bournemouth, again, look at them, but they're not. Their business model is exactly the same as ours. The Semenyo deal is a case in point. They are selling clubs as we are. Okay, we buy lower division players, bring them on, okay, and then sell them for a greater profit. Elise, Eze, that just Mateta's going to be the next one. Okay, Paul, I'm going to shut up and give you a chance to talk.
Yeah, it's on the same thing. Russell's just put a list of all the players we've bought over the last few years. We have actually spent a lot of money. I think people do underestimate how much we spent, and that's just fees. That's not even wages. And as you just said,
agreed.
I've had this chat with a lot of people recently about whether Palace are a selling club. Every team outside the top 8 of the Premier League is a selling club. I had a look through. You could name any of those teams, and you can see 3 or 4 players in the last few years that have gone to one of the top 6 clubs for lots of money. Because it doesn't matter what you do. West Ham, for instance, they won the conference, didn't they? And then everyone thought you could push on for that. They lose Declan Rice. All these things, people like that, they lost Kudus this year. The minute you do well, like Palace, you win trophy stuff, you get picked off. And it's about getting the most money. Now, what's happened a lot recently as well is clubs are getting mugged for money because players have learned about the release clause. That's why we got skinned for Michael Elise. You could argue got skinned for Eze. Bournemouth have just sold Semenyo for 65 million. That's ridiculous considering City paid 100 million for Grealish a couple of years ago. So it's all very well saying that. As I say, people, the transfer fees aren't even as big as they used to be now. So, and again, there's PSR rules, as you say, there's financial rules, and they're even tighter in Europe. So we've had to be slightly tighter this year anyway. Now, that's not to say we can't spend. And the rumours to say we're apparently just agreeing a fee roughly around 20 million for a striker now. But there are financial rules. You look at, as Joe says, Newcastle have got more money than God. They can't spend it. Aston Villa, they're desperate to buy players to push on for their title chase. They can't spend it. It's because of the rules are set in a way that a club of our size can only get to a certain ceiling. And that's the problem we have. And until that changes, and the problem is the new rules that are coming in make that even harder. So, yeah, we've got to be clever in the transfer market, and we can't just go and splash money on anyone. We've got to get the right deals and stuff. And people are saying about buying people now. Yes, it would be great to be buying players now, and I think we will. But the problem is, who are we buying those players for at the moment?
If we get time, I'm going to come on to that as well. Good, very valid. Tim.
Yeah, I think one of the
talk about the chairman. So over to you, mate.
Yeah. I think one of the things that puts it into perspective is we broke our transfer record by spending £34 million on Johnson. Now, you look at most other clubs in the Premier League and they're spending 50, 60, 70 million on players. So what hope have we got? But I think also our problems started back in the summer or after we won the FA Cup. Because as he's always fond of telling everyone who'll listen, Steve Parish is a decision maker. He is the one who makes all the decisions in the club. And trust me, that is true. So he spent all summer, all that time fighting UEFA after his cock-up, after we won the FA Cup, and not contacting and assuming that everyone believed him, but they didn't. So that's his fault. So all his attention, all his notice was on that. It was not on building the squad for a difficult season. And say what you want about Glasner, but he's absolutely right in that here's Crystal Palace. They've won the FA Cup. They've won the Community Shield trophy, whatever it's called these days. They're in Europe for the first time. Now is the time to take a bit of a risk and to push it. And there was money there to spend on players. But Mr. Parish chose not to. Now, it's not a case of spending lots of money. It's spending money on the right players, which is what we're good at. And my big problem with it is we're all talk about wanting to get to the next level. We all talk about pushing the club forward. To do that, you need to keep your best players. Maybe not all of them, but a majority of them. So what hope have we ever got of reaching that next level and staying there, where every time we get players like that, we sell them?
Thank you, mate. Good stuff. I want to talk about Europe. I'm glad you mentioned Europe a minute ago, Tim, because I'm going to come on to that next. Paul.
Yeah, so me and Tim have been having lots of to and fro. It's been great fun actually today. But I just want to ask Tim on what he's just said. Which of these players we sold would you have kept?
Well, I think I would have loved to have kept Elise, and I think we should have got more for him.
Yeah,
I'm not just talking last year. I'm talking about if you look over Palace history, we get good players and then we sell them rather than keeping them if we can and trying to push to the next level. I mean, we're very fortunate with Eze and Elise getting players like that. But I think what showed where we are good.
We would never have got Elise. I'm sorry, Tim.
Yeah.
We would never have bought Elise from Reading unless we'd inserted the release clause in the first place. So that doesn't cut.
Yeah, but you can change the release clause.
No, yeah, but they wouldn't have signed. But the question there is, Tim, you say which teams have kept their best players?
Brighton haven't.
Have been able to keep their best.
Brighton's match day revenue is miles bigger than us with a similar sort of size crowd, and they're selling their players out regularly for £1 million. So, and they're
but then Brighton know their chairman £450 million.
He's going to write off. He's going to write off.
That's, the money's there, but they spend the money. They sell, but they spend the money.
But their chairman is willing to put the money in. These people, you've already said, you just alluded to it, that these new owners of ours, Woody Johnson, as Gel's talking about, these people are business people. They're not in to give away £450 million like Tony Bloom is at Brighton. That's not his job. But that's not their job. They're coming to us as an investment, and we've got to make money. I mean, the only way we're going to make money is to sell our decent players for a good profit. Joe, you wanted to make a point, mate. Over to you.
I did. There's quite a lot of chat in the a lot of stuff about Elise and Eze. So I don't know if you remember this. It was quite a big thing at the time. But Elise, he always turned around and said that football, there was the step to Reading, and then to us, we were just stepping stones. He said it on his Instagram. We were just stepping stones. He always knew he was destined to be great. I mean, whether he does it, his next step will have to be Madrid, it'll have to be Spain. Otherwise, no one will take him seriously in Germany. It's not a farmers' league, but it almost is. But Eze, I mean, you can't. He's served his apprenticeship. He's done his time. Through his age and everything. He helped us. We had him, arguably, and it seems great as well, for probably his best 3 years. Because he ain't going to pull any trees up at Arsenal.
He owes us absolutely nothing, Jill. You're quite right.
Exactly. But the thing is, what did we pay for him? 17 or whatever, and got 60. So, but I mean, there's a lot of people talking about Parish and about, I'd like to know. I'd just like to know why we do have these owners that they can't. Like Man City, they made up some absolute load of crap advertising or whatever, and bought they paid themselves an extraordinary amount of money, and that's not in the 115, which still hasn't been sorted out. But I don't know whether there's ways, creative ways around it where you can make a company pay the club, a silly amount of money. Someone can buy did Tony Bloom build the Amex and then gift it to, but does that go against their PSR? Is that?
I don't know.
No, infrastructure costs don't go against PSR. So you can build anything we spend on the stand won't affect our transfer budget. Anything on to do infrastructure, training grounds, things like that doesn't count. But yeah, Tony Bloom just converts everything to shares. Now, Brighton, it'll sound bitter, but Brighton lucked their life out when they got Tony Bloom, and even their fans admit that. As I say, they've basically got a bottomless pit who's happy to give all his money to the club and not want it back. So in terms of payment back, he just takes shares. So they've lucked out with that one. But as I say, it's just. We say about spending the money, as I say, Newcastle have got trillions and trillions, even they can't spend it. And just to prove the point, they're probably the next biggest club outside the big six. Even one of their players was desperate to leave to go to a big six club with Isak. The Palace, and people have got to realise, in my opinion, the bottom 12 teams in the division, every time you do well, or even when you don't, you lose your players. As I say, you can name any team in that sort of middle bracket that's been around us: Brentford, Bournemouth, Wolves, West Ham, Villa. And I've got lists of names of players that have gone on to bigger clubs. Not, as I say, it's just the way of the life. As I say, Eze wouldn't have signed. He signed a new contract with a release clause in. He had to go. All these players we would love to have kept, they had to go because they were running out of contract. They put a release clause in. Of course, everyone would love to have kept all these players, but it's
just been a victim of our own success.
Yeah, like all clubs, and it's going to keep happening. And the only I don't see how that will change, because if we did say we won the conference, then someone had done really well, he'll be picked off. If we did the Champions League, he'll get picked off. It's the way of football.
I have no issue with selling players. What I have an issue with is not replacing them, or at least making an attempt to replace them with players that are.
That's where we're at.
good
And
enough.
you're right, Tim. That's where we're at now.
Yeah.
Okay, why I want to come on to this, okay?
Steve White has just said that, Nick. Can I just say? So he said there's nothing wrong with the model of buying raw talent and selling them on after developing them. Our biggest problem is the speed on which we replace them. If we're getting big bucks, the next rising star should be identified and purchased, and the following day. That way, it gives us a chance it gives us a little chance to regret that sale. That's our weakness. That's the point of the evening. That is for me, Steve.
Yeah. Well done, Steve. Right. So, ladies and gentlemen, you may be aware that I have had my crystal ball out recently. Okay, and it looks as though, according to Mr. Holio, I've actually got some things correct. What you guys don't know, none of you know, is that while I was sitting in Australia, I sent Nigel a voice note from one of my contacts. It was my voice note, but from information that I received, and this is back in August last year, about our manager. Our manager claims that he told Parish in October that he was going. From what I understand, it actually goes back deeper than that because he wasn't back to the last summer's transfer window. Nigel, I don't think Nigel's got the facility to play out what I actually said. Okay, and there was 2 or 3 things on there that I actually said in the voice. Hold on, okay, and they've proven to be true. Nigel's got it, and Nigel's had that in his dirty little mitt since last August. And the other thing I wanted to come on to is because as we're looking into Nick's crystal balls, okay, there is something else that nobody's actually picked up on. The Kamada situation and the Mateta situation. Right, Kamada is out of contract at the end of the season, and he will be another one. And Tim's jumping for joy for some reason. He's up there with one of our best players so far this year, since before he had his injury. Kamada will not renew his contract. I know Joe will probably say that's a decent thing because he's on really good money. He's on one of the highest wages at the club. And the other thing I want to ask you about, guys, is the Mateta situation. Now, reports to the press over the weekend and the last week. Yaz, I'm coming to you on this. The reports are Juventus are sniffing around him for 25 million quid, I think it is. How do you feel?
So this is going to sound a bit strange after what I said before, but I actually wouldn't mind if we got some money for him. He hasn't really played very well this season at all, and I think. No, I don't know but I could be wrong. But since he went and got into the French team, he seems to think that he's now bigger than Crystal Palace, and I don't like that. So if he wants to go, that's fine. I know there were rumours, which of course we don't know if that's true, about him refusing to play or whatever. But if any player, JP or anyone, ever does that, then they can go out the door. And I'll have Can I
just jump on that? Yes, I jumped all over that on the socials yesterday. I saw that there was somebody put out there that Jean-Philippe Mateta was refusing to play away at Sunderland yesterday. It was complete and utter fabrication, as the team sheet proved to be the case. And I wish people, if I catch anybody doing it on any of our pages, I'm just going to bin them now. I'm just going to bin them. There was absolutely not one iota of facts behind that statement. Okay, and I jumped all over it as soon as I saw it.
No, and obviously he was there, but I just think that no player is ever bigger than Crystal Palace. So if they want to go, and whether they refuse to play or they're not giving their all when they are playing, then they're welcome to leave. For me personally, I mean. He seems to have gone really backwards this season. And if he is injured, then obviously don't play him. Play someone else and let him recover from it. Because at the moment, we're not benefiting from him being injured or not caring, whatever the fact is.
Good. Paul, then I'll come to you, Joe.
There's a VAR check going on. I think
I'm looking at it now.
You can see the penalty, but that's another story. But yeah, Jean-Philippe Mateta, there's 2 things to this. As I said earlier, I've got no problem with any player who gives 100%. wants to do the best. His priority is Palace. I think, as Yaz said, since he started playing for France, he's now playing for himself more. I think he's playing not to get injured. I think he's worried about going to the World Cup, and I think that's taken that the eye off the ball and that 1% off his game, and he's not there. And then when you add that to the fact he's clearly not going to sign a new contract, then as we've learned with Mark, we can't let things go. I think, we got to.
There is a penalty.
Cash in while we can, but and I'm kind of hoping if we're signing this striker, then that is going to be his replacement in advance, which is what we've all said is how it should be done.
Okay, Joe, you want your point, mate?
I think Mateta, his form has dipped for whatever reason. There's a multitude of reasons. He wants like 7.6 million pounds a year. Apparently, like you say, his form has suffered dreadfully since he now gets regularly picked for France. He wants to go to the World Cup. But I think he misses Eze so badly. They had a very good understanding. So, I think taking Eze out of his game hasn't helped at all, and he doesn't get the service. And when he does, he does create the chances. I think he's been very unlucky in some of the chances this year, but then he's missed some absolute open goals, stuff that he should have scored. But anyway, I think that, and I'd said to you guys privately, I thought at the end of this season, I'll come out and say it now, that I thought we would be, I didn't think we'd lose the manager. I thought we'd sign a new contract and then walk at the end of the season so we got more money. But I did say that I thought we'd lose a minimum of 5 first-team players this season. We're already two down. If Mateta goes, it's 3. Then Kamada goes, it's 4. I have a feeling Walton, he needs to be in a better team than us. He's just getting crowded at the moment. He can't do everything on his own. He's now getting pelters off the fans. But if you saw what Sunderland did to him yesterday, every time he went to get the ball, they had 2 or 3 players on him. He just smashed him. That was it. He just spent a lot of time on the floor because the referee let him get kicked to shit yesterday. But anyway, I have a feeling we're trying to get, we've already know that we've been trying to get rid of Nketiah. And then if we lose Munoz, if he decides that the team's going to go down the pan, he might, his stock is very high. The only thing against him is 29-30. So, and then if he goes, will Sarr want to stay? I mean, Sarr does love a move. We all know that. So it could be, we could have had the best that, we've had the high, and we might just hopefully avoid the relegation. Our form is dragging us down, and fruit results like West Ham winning yesterday doesn't help because that brought them 3 more points closer to us, But at the moment, I know people are saying Walton is vastly overrated, Tom is, but he really isn't. He really isn't. He's an amazing player. And that's one of the reasons we got him. He's probably the best passer of the ball, look or no look in our club. So, I mean, we could possibly be losing anything between 3 and 7 players, really. And that's their first team players. They're the ones that actually walk into the squad. And God knows if, Dino, his stock's never been high now. He's number 2, England number 2, possibly should be England's number 1. Maybe, I mean, he came from Man United just about come to us to play Premier League football and stay, and get to, and now he's been, his stock's higher than ever. It could be massive. It really could be massive. And then we'll see where we are, how the fans react. If anything, if half of that happens, and like you say, that's without the player. Now the manager's gone as well. So Christ knows what's going to happen in 4 months' time.
Paul, can I ask you to keep your eye on what's going on screen, ladies and gentlemen? For those
going completely mad. I think the manager is trying to get the Senegal players to walk off.
Yeah, there is a penalty being given against Senegal. Ismaili Sarr is on the pitch and has just been booked for dissent.
They're walking off. He's called
the manager is now taking their players off, including Sarr, off the pitch.
Basically, Morocco, the home nation in this tournament, have got a 98th minute penalty in the 8th minute of stoppage time of the final. Oh. And it's gone to VAR. The VAR has given it, but I think he's basically saying he shouldn't have. And it's one of those 50-50s, but he's literally gone farcical because he's taking his team off. He's refusing to play.
And that includes Sarr. So the reason we're mentioning it is because one of our players is involved in it. Nicholas Jackson's having a row with somebody as we speak. There's loads going on. Anyway, back to where we are. Look at the time, guys. We're already at 9:05. So, okay, time for a reset, ladies and gentlemen. I'm picking on you four on screen. Okay, we are currently sitting in 13th. Are we 13th? I believe we're 13th in the league. We're not. I know you mentioned it a minute ago, Jill, that you're talking about relegation. Are we looking over our shoulders? Blah blah blah. Personally, we're not. There's that. Yeah, we're already on 20, whatever it is, 28, 29 points. We only need a couple more wins and a couple of draws for the rest of the season, and we're only at halfway stage to be, to get up to the 40 points bit. So, fourth from bottom, John Cook said. Jonathan Cook, good evening, mate. He's saying fourth from bottom at least. That's a bit of a concern. Yaz, your finishing position this season, please, after the turmoil that this club has been going through. We are without a win in 10 games now, I believe it is, in all competitions. Your prediction for our finishing position. What did you go for earlier on in the season?
I think I went quite high, like 6th or 8th or something. I think it might have been 6th. So now I think probably, well, at best, our usual 12th, or if not, about 14th or 15th. It depends. If Ollie can motivate them, I think we can get, definitely to 12th, maybe higher. If not, and we get a new manager, maybe that will help. But if we just carry on as we are, then I do worry that we'll just finish just outside the relegation places.
Rich D says we go for our 12th. Tim, Joe, I'm coming to you next. Tim, prediction for the end of the season, please.
14th or 15th, I think.
Okay, Jill?
Yeah, I'm just going to go with most other people in here, 12th. Lee Ward says, does anyone think of our lack of squad depth that we should throw everything in the Conference League?
I'm coming to that, Lee. Thank you for that question, Jill. Because
let me have my little tuppence about it while I've asked the question. Absolutely not. Our bread and butter is the Premier League. Like, I don't care if we lose. And I'm saying that I don't care. And I know some of you guys are going there, and I really feel bad for saying this. I don't care if we don't get through that. I really don't care. Our bread and butter is the Premier League.
Paul, over to you. I want your thoughts on that as well, because you nodded your head there.
Yeah, so
what's going on over there first?
I've never seen anything like it. They're just Senegal refusing to play. The ref doesn't know what to do. He's got one man standing on a penalty spot waiting to take a penalty, and everyone is on the touchline. It's gone completely nuts. It's hysterical. No, in terms of position, I think obviously it's very hard to predict because you don't know who the manager's going to be, whether he's going to stay, who we're going to buy. So, but the way it's going, if he stays, I can't see him motivating the team much. So probably 15th, a new guy comes who's got time to bed 15th. So 15th and that. But in terms of Europe, we were discussing this on the train yesterday, Yaz and Ian Donald and our group. The problem for us now is this summer, if we did win the conference, that'd be great. It'd be wonderful. Trophy on the cabinet, all this sort of stuff. But it gets us Europe again next year. Now, if the squad's not big enough this year, it's going to be even worse next year because all the money we've got at the moment or anything buying, we've got to replace everyone that's going this year. So all we're going to probably do is be net even on squad. So we'll just be back to square one. We'll have a European campaign with a squad that's not big enough. So, like Joe, I'm not overly worried about Europe. I mean, I said this as well. The conference is okay when you're in it, but it's never been my. Everyone, it's great when I see people saying it's my dream to see us in Europe. It's been brilliant, and it's been good. I've done a few of the away games. It's been great fun, but it was never my dream to be playing Larnaca and Drinsky and Cooks. I'm not going to lie. So. If we do go out of it and get some stability in the league and can push on for a decent stuff next year, great. But yeah, I don't think we can face Europe next year, and so I probably wouldn't be too upset if we didn't win the conference.
I'm going to read you my point because Max has made it. Max VG6JS on Twitter is saying the Conference League is far more important than the Premier League. We're safe. We're not going to win the Premier League. We're favourites to win the European competition, and it's all we have left to play for this season. We ain't going down. Throw everything at it. Absolutely everything at it. None of this rest three players, play three kids. I mean, he's cocked it up royally this season. Why did he take Guéhi off at half-time at Strasbourg? For no reason at all. He wasn't injured. And then we were winning 1-0 at the time. We'd gone on and lost that game 2-1. Had he not made that stupid call, a ridiculous call, we would have probably got a point out in Strasbourg. What was all that about? We should have throw everything at the Conference League. It's our only chance of winning a trophy. Only chance. Somebody had their hand up. We wanted to make the point.
Oh.
Just a comment that Mary put about the money being in the Europa League. If you're not in the Champions League, then really the money is, unless you win it, is pretty negligible in Europe. So it's probably better to go 4 places up the Premier League, to be honest, in terms of money.
Joe?
Right, like I said, I'll read, as long as people aren't being abusive, I'll always read people's views. So Russell Baker says, we could still be playing in Europa League next season. Get rid of the root cause. The twat Glasner. Get a new man in and let's see where we are. I'm not listening to this crap that everyone is leaving. Jill, you're better than that, mate. I know I have been here since COVID, but this talk doesn't feel right. We are Palace, win the conference, play Europa. Okay. Firstly, again, it's not about arguments, it's about views. I don't think we're good enough to win. I just don't think we're good enough to win a conference. We've been proved we couldn't even beat Larnaca. And again, it is what it is. Our bread and butter. If we go down to the championship, we are absolutely. We will go skin. We will go skin. I think I don't know what Tim. Just quickly, if you can interject, do you know? Yes or no? Do you know how much money we're in debt?
No.
Okay, I don't know, but I know we have debts. Quite large debts as well, and we're only a relegation or probably away from that. The thing about not, he said he's not having it, and about all the players leaving. Well, look, Eze's gone. Our manager, he's definitely going. I mean, we're going to be a minimum of 4 down. Guéhi's gone. We're literally going to be 4 down. I said. I think 5, between 5 and 7. We're already 4 down. So I'm just trying to make that point. We literally are already 4 down. So
right. Okay. Listen, I'm going to wrap this up because, ladies and gentlemen, those who are watching live, you might want to switch over to whatever station is on and watch this farcical. Go on, Yaz. Yaz.
Just that John Kerr asked, what do we? Hello. Do we have?
Go on.
Do we have the result of the poll?
Yeah, it was.
John Kerr asked if we had the result of the poll.
There is a lag here, Zach. Honey, yeah, I can hear you. Right, yes, the result of the poll was a resounding thumbs down. There are a few hearts, a resounding thumbs down. I want to wrap it up, Paul, so go on, mate.
Yeah, I'm just commentating. So Sadio Mane has gone back into the Senegal dressing room and has dragged his goalkeeper back out and the rest of the team. So I think they're going to finally take the penalty.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to wrap it up there. It's been a fascinating show. The life as a Crystal Palace fan goes on. Gel, Tim, Yaz, Paul, good show, guys. We'll be back next Monday.
Can I just have 10 seconds?
Go on, mate.
Before we go, friend of the show, Grant Saunders. 60 today. A real good effort for him, especially because of his health issues. So happy birthday, mate, and to many more in the future.
There he is.
Well done, Nige. Fantastic. Well done. But yeah, happy birthday, big fella.
He's a good friend of many of us on this pod.
He is. He really is. He's a good bloke, and he's a good bloke. If you don't know him, make a point of trying to know him because he will help you in the future.
Absolutely, Paul.
Yeah, and if anyone knows who's in the back of that picture that me and Yasmin met yesterday, we had quite an interesting debate as to how many people know who that was. Apparently, he's a celebrity. I didn't know him, but apparently a lot of people will know him.
Friend of the stars.
Right, the penalty about to be taken. Get off the air, you lot. Shut up. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of myself, Nick Philpott, and this mad lot, stay safe. We'll see you next week for the Chelsea game. Up the Palace. Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Not all.
Thanks all.
Bye, everyone.